loudly down the hill in pursuit of their lassoed brother. The sun was coming up on the village. The man who had fallen into the hedge climbed out of it and caught up with the other man, at a loping run. From the church steeple, the Crow had a good view of the two men tying one end of the rope around the donkey's neck to the stern of the boat. They jumped in, and the first man started the engine and cast off. As the motorboat moved out from the jetty, the lassoed donkey gave a piercing howl and dug in all its heels. The engine of the motorboat roared. The donkey, with its legs thrust stiffly in front of it, was tugged towards the water. It screeched, fell into the water, and was forced to start swimming. The remainder of the donkey pack came thundering up to the water's edge and stopped. They keened, a choral hee-haw in the direction of the swimming donkey, but none set off in pursuit. The Crow rested a while, preening its feathers. The boat made progress towards the island in the middle of the lake, towing the donkey behind it. The Crow flew off again over the water and landed in a tree on the island near the shore. It watched as the boat beached and the two men tugged the braying donkey onto the island. As soon as it was on land, it began to kick out with its hind legs. One of the men grabbed the stick off the other man and began to beat the donkey repeatedly with it. The other man shouted and waved his hand in the air, walking backwards away from them. The man who now had the stick and was still holding the rope released it. The donkey catapulted towards the stickless man and kicked out at him with its hind legs until he fell. As he tried to get up, the donkey kicked at his head with its front legs, then bit him in the neck. The man lay still on the ground, and the other man ran to the boat and set off over the water. After standing there for a few minutes, snorting, the donkey lost interest and began to eat a thorn bush. The Crow flew down and landed on the ground beside the fallen man. It hopped onto a trilby hat. There was not a single twitch from the man. The Crow hopped nearer and onto the face. It plucked out a still warm eye. The other eye stared up at the sky, waiting its turn.
I will finish with reading a poem by a Nobel laureate from Scotland in the book called Rory MacLeod. He's one of the poets who avoids being murdered.
Because of his great age, we spared him.
He's very old. It's called A Garden. I too had a garden once. I'd hear the hinge scrape on the great gatepost and welcome the loud boys with leaping buckets who'd swagger onto the grass. I'd buy their mackerel and listen to their jokes. There were clouds up there in scaldy blue, drifting over the tenements, and their pram-pushed babbies who'd always bawl whether the clouds dropped rain or no. I tried to devise a system to include them. Clouds, babbies, boys, even the rats that skittered round the garden, squeaking. What now can I cram into my stanzas? The dog skull I dug up behind the dahlias? The oar that had rotted into the ground?
That was Matthew's Scottish accent. If anybody has any questions, we endeavour to answer them.
Where can one buy that novel?
It'll be out in about 10 days' time.
Yeah.
Both in an e-book and in a real book. Jesus, man, it's been 10 years on the go. The question you asked is a question we've been asking ourselves for 5 years.
Okay, so we'll be able to buy the book in 10
Yeah.
days.
You can get it through Amazon,
Yeah.
no problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should be able to get it through
Super.
Amazon. I hope you'll be able to get it through Amazon.
Have you got any Welsh blood in your veins, John?
He does. His name's Williams. Of
My
course.
father was Welsh.
Yeah.
Of course he fucking has. And even though he criticizes my accent, I have Scottish blood in my veins, but he doesn't like my accent. I never criticize his Welsh accent.
Well, if there are no questions.
I've got a question.
Yes?
What sparked the whole thing off?
Aaron Malley.
It was just that, yeah.
Yeah. No,
It's
more than that. Yeah.
Well, back in the early 90s, we wrote together, one of those Teach Yourself books. That's a series of self-help books and self-instruction books. And they asked us if we would write a book called Teach Yourself How to Write Poetry. We looked at each other and thought, God. This is
No, I was writer in resident at the South Bank Centre in London, and I got a phone call.